Welcome back to FCS Delivered, presented by FedEx Ground. I'm Craig Haley, co-host of this podcast along with Gary Reasons. Gary's probably fresh off eating Maryland crab cakes, but more on that shortly. Gary, how's your week going?
Craig, it's been a wonderful football week. It's been a fast couple of days. We'll talk more about that here soon, but loving college football.
Well, as you know, Seth Biley and Graham Bell are producers of our podcast. And where can you find FCS Delivered? Well, there's many podcast platforms. There's Amazon, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and others. And of course, you may be watching us on YouTube. If you're not, just search for FCS Delivered. Now, on today's podcast, we're going to review Week 1. We're going to talk about the Week 1 National Awards. That includes our on-campus visit with Gary, and we're going to preview Week 2. Gary, what did you think of Week 1?
Well, it wasn't a great weekend for the FCS groups. Those especially playing the FBS opponents. We kind of got on the wrong side of the ledger all of the games. So that's not a great Week 1, so to speak. But it is an opportunity for all of those teams that did perform against an FBS program to just kind of assess where they're at, to get better, and then move forward. So I don't think the coaches or any of the players on those teams really need to worry about not winning against that FBS opponent, but just take it and learn from it and move forward.
And there were some close results. I mean, the CAA especially did well, keeping close. Maine lost 14-12 at FIU. I think the most exciting game might have been Rhode Island at Georgia State. It was 42-35 Georgia State, but that just was fun back and forth. So, yeah, I think the results may have gone to form a little bit, but you would have liked to gotten an FCS upset of the FBS. But there were some really impressive results, especially these road teams in FCS versus FCS matchups. Eastern Illinois had a shutout at Indiana State. Morgan State won at nationally ranked Richmond 17-10. That was a terrific one. There were 9 new head coaches who earned their first week. So I do think there were a lot of positives, but yes, there's certainly we would have liked to see an FBS upset. Now, our FedEx Ground game of the week, national game of the week, it was North Dakota State 35 over Eastern Washington 10, 35-10. It kind of went the way we thought, Gary.
Yeah, it's a team that's just going to take over. North Dakota State, they're a very powerful football team, Craig, as we've talked about previously, and it really showed in that ball game.
Yeah, the one thing that stood out in that game to me is Cole Payton, the number 2 quarterback. We've been hearing about him for a year or two now because he was so touted in their recruiting class. Cam Miller's won a national title and been to the final twice as their as their main quarterback. They were incorporating Cole Payton into the game last week, and he did well. He rushed for over 100 yards and scored a touchdown. Tell me about that. I mean, having a 2-quarterback system, if it becomes that, the way North Dakota State may incorporate Cole Payton.
Well, it looks like Coach Ants has decided to roll with the 2-quarterback system with that. And really what that does to your opponent is it gives the defensive team something really to have to prepare for. You've got 2 different skill sets, 2 different types of players potentially, and they both bring tremendous assets and skills to the field. So having to prepare for 2 quarterbacks is really difficult. And I think that there's optimism on North Dakota State side because they have those 2 quarterbacks. They can roll with either one of them in different situations, and that's a good situation to have, to be able to do that. And obviously, in the case of injury to one of them, you could move forward with 1 quarterback, but a 2-quarterback system, and really especially the way that they like to be, and that is a physical, dominant team, I think they can work with that very well.
You mentioned the depth, and yeah, that's not a topic that we kind of talk about, in the media over time. I mean, we always focus on the starting players, the star players, but you do need some depth over the course of the season. And this may be a blessing going on if they do use 2 quarterbacks at North Dakota State. Now, there was another game that was almost like the game of the week in the sense, and a week earlier, Jackson State was in our game of the week against South Carolina State. This time they ran into Florida A&M. FAMU won 28-10. Did you get an impression of FAMU there?
Explosive, fast, fast, and a good football team. Very well designed plan for that game, and the players just executed. So my hat's off to Florida A&M because they really took over in that ball game early on, and Jackson State, they were just kind of they weren't catching on as quickly as the Rattlers were, because it got out of hand, and it got out of hand early.
Yeah, Willie Simmons has a terrific team with the Rattlers. I think you're right. It seemed like it was 21-0 right out of the chute the first 10 minutes of the game, perhaps. I think Jackson State was shell-shocked, especially looking so impressive in their Week 0 win. So hats off to the Rattlers here. Some of the other top teams, obviously the number 1 team, South Dakota State, they kind of rolled in their opener 45-7 against Western Oregon. Montana State, number 3, they rolled over Utah Tech 63-20. Those two teams are going to be playing this week, 1 versus 3. So that's they probably want to ease into the season because it's going to get big from here on. There were some great storylines. I mean, I think one that went under the radar, VMI beat Davidson, the last-minute touchdown. I think it was 17-12. That was the 4th different program that Danny Rocco has a coaching win. 4th different FCS program. There's Liberty. He was at Richmond and Udell, Delaware, and now he's at VMI. I just love these longtime coaches that get it done everywhere, Gary.
Yeah, a lot of coaches that are just continuing to coach. They love to coach. They love to be impactful to their team, to their communities. And Danny having a chance to do that now for the 4th time is really a unique thing. It doesn't happen all the time, but getting a good chance and have an opportunity to go out there and just be a mentor to the young players and see where you go. You just roll the dice out there and hopefully your system takes off.
Well, all of the week 1 and 0 action, it led right into our first FCS top 25 poll, first in-season poll on Labor Day. And, everybody's waiting for that first poll to see the kind of shifting. Tell us about the shifting after week 1.
Well, one of the things, really wasn't much at the top of the list, but UIW really didn't get to have a very good game last week against UTEP. They kind of slipped a little bit there. They did on my ballot. They dipped down, and you've got them. I think Craig totally is number 10. So they dropped there. But a few teams moved into the poll, which was unique. They had some good games and moved into the poll. So, and others just kind of resettling. So I think these early games, especially against the FBS opponents, me as a voter, I don't really look at those as far as moving them really way down if you were to lose one, especially because we're really looking at how you're going to be able to play over the course of the season against your FCS opponents and those in your conference. So not a lot of change at the top 25 poll, but there were some.
Gary, you're right. I mean, this is my 14th year season involved with the FCS top 25 poll, and I think there was less movement than I've ever seen in a poll, and I think it reflects to what you said, FBS games. People didn't want to, lower a team too much from an FBS loss. If you get an FBS win, of course you're going to move up, but there were none in week 1, so there was little movement. You're right, the first 6 teams didn't move. UIW, as you mentioned, went from 7 to 10. You mentioned teams that came into the poll. There was Florida A&M at 23. Southern Illinois moved in at 24. They had a nice win over Austin Peay. Number 25 is Youngstown State, another Missouri Valley team. They beat Valparaiso pretty handily. So there wasn't a lot of movement. I think that's the way to do it. This week there are some more FBS games, but we'll see where it goes from here, especially with number 1 South Dakota State playing number 3 Montana State. But we'll see. We're going to go to our first break, and we will be back with more FCS Delivered presented by FedEx Ground.
Rehearsals for the school play were really coming along.
Bigger smile, Mr. Squirrel?
Until a custodian accidentally threw away the costumes.
Oh, no.
Everyone was rattled. Miss Garrity forgot how to play. And the Queen of the Hedgehogs almost quit.
Find a new queen!
But replacement costumes were shipped with FedEx. And with added peace of mind from picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
Welcome back to FCS Delivered, presented by FedEx Ground. Craig Haley along with Gary Reasons. Gary, a few weeks ago we were dressed like the Blues Brothers. Today we're a little more shades of gray. I hope we have a little bit of sunny personality moving forward here. In this segment, Gary, it's going to be like a weekly staple, something we've been talking about, FCS On-Campus Awards. Gary visiting a different campus every week to present a FedEx Ground FCS National Player or Team of the Week. Gary, you went to Morgan State this week, but let's start out with the Players of the Week. We had offensive player. We had Holy Cross's running back, Jordan Fuller. He rushed for 5 touchdowns in a win over Merrimack. I tell you, the last one to have that many touchdowns, or at least more than Jordan, how about this name? Gordy Lockbaum.
Wow. That's a good one.
Our
Congratulations
defensive player
on
of the
the
week.
5 touchdowns.
Our defensive player of the week, Eastern Illinois, Elijah Wad Tolbert, linebacker. He just had a dominant game, 11 tackles, forced a fumble, had an interception in the shutout over Indiana State, a game we talked about already. Our special teams player of the week, New Hampshire, Dylan Lauby, returner and running back. He just 229 all-purpose yards, the most in the nation. He had over 100 on returns, just tremendous, also a touchdown. And then our freshman of the week, Montana State, as they prepped for their game against South Dakota State. Scott Tree Humphrey, a true freshman, 114 yards, 3 touchdowns against Utah Tech. I tell you, there's some tremendous individual performances, but there was a team that really caught our eye, Gary.
Yeah, it really was. There was a team that went out there, and it kind of gave me a chance to figure out where Gary's going to go this first week of the season. And I leave Dallas-Fort Worth Airport on Monday, on Labor Day, to go out to Morgan State University in Baltimore. Boy, it was a wonderful trip. With my friends at Southwest Airlines, got me there in pretty good stead, and had a great opportunity to go on campus and talk to the university personnel, some of the players, and make a national award presentation. So here we're landing at Morgan State University, and it's really a fun university. It's an opportunity to go to North Central Baltimore, where Morgan State is at. They've got a great campus and a great tradition there of football. And, Hughes Stadium, which you're looking at right now, is a tremendous little stadium to play in. And the Bears, they really show up big. They welcomed us on campus, and it was a great thing. They've got some great football tradition for this university, and it really was apparent for us there that this program is something that teams are going to have to deal with. Head coach Damon Wilson welcomed us there to see his team, and they took on an opportunity to, just practice a little bit here, getting ready for the next week. They've got a big ball game against Akron that's coming up, and so we had a chance to visit with them and kind of just see what the Bears are all about. And what I saw in a football team, Craig, was something that was a team that is very disciplined, a team that is very structured, a team that is ready to compete. I think the Bears in the MEAC are really going to be a team that the teams are going to have to deal with on an ongoing basis. So we brought the national awards on campus there, and Coach Wilson had an opportunity to visit with me, and we talked about his team a little bit. And we also had our FedEx Ground representative step in there as well, Ms. Jasmine Savage. And I had a chance to talk to this team, Craig, a little bit about some of the things that I have learned over the years as far as being a football player and also a broadcaster. And these players took it all to heart. We had a lot of fun, and we obviously made this presentation. Ms. Savage did a great job of presenting on behalf of FedEx Ground on what we were talking about. The players really kind of bought into all of this, and they really appreciated it. And being recognized, here it is.
Yeah, I think a team in season, you move on to the next week almost instantly. Probably if you play on a Saturday, by Sunday, you're thinking the next week. This gives a team a little bit of time to catch their breath. I like that. They can really revel in their accomplishments. To beat a nationally ranked team like Richmond is just outstanding on the road. I think it was Morgan State's first season opening win in 11 years. And I think Richmond had won 17 straight home openers. So this is just a landmark kind of win for a young program. And you mentioned they could be a dark horse in the MEAC, Morgan State.
Yeah, really. It was a fun time to be on campus with them. And I learned quite a bit about this university, Craig. It's really one of the gems out there in college football and really in just higher education. I had a chance to visit with the director of athletics there. And so when I visited with her, Dina Freeman Patton, she gave me some information about the university, and talking to those people. I also had a chance to talk to the president of the university, Dr. David Wilson, and he was a guy who really is passionate about NCAA sports and collegiate athletics. He's been on several committees over the last several years, and it's apparent to me that Morgan State is really on the rise. There's been a lot of opportunity to improve the campus there. I was told by one of the facility folks that there's going to be hundreds of millions of dollars of improvements to Morgan State's campus and facilities, and it was underway as we were shooting the on-campus spot there just outside the practice field. You could hear the construction because they were redoing the dorms nearby the practice facility, and there's a lot of that going on around campus, and there's much more to come.
Another thing that stood out there is just seeing a team practicing. Like, the buildup of a week is tremendous. I mean, we see game day when the stands are full, but just the day-to-day grind, being out there, the camaraderie of getting better as a team, and just game day when that stadium is filling up and you just have that, feeling of anticipation as a player and a coach, a program. I just think the week-to-week look you're going to have here with FCS National Awards on campus is just going to be fascinating to watch it.
Yeah, we're going to take one more. Yeah, Craig, we'll take one more look at something here. This program still has a lot of tradition, okay, and they've got a lot of pride, and they've got a legacy of excellence. I tell you that Roosevelt Brown, NFL Hall of Famer, played for the New York Football Giants. He's one of four. Lynn Ford for the Cleveland Browns. You guys, you got to see this. There's four of these guys. You have Willie Lanier, Kansas City linebacker, one of the fiercest linebackers of all time, played in the National Football League. And then you have Leroy Kelly. I tell you, there is a legacy of football at Morgan State University that really speaks well to the program. And these guys are all aspiring to it. And it was a lot of fun for me to see, to experience. And I really appreciate the welcome there. Thank you very much to the staff at Morgan State University for welcoming me and our team to come in there, especially Leonard Haynes, the Associate Athletic Director and Director of Communications, and Kevin Page as well, the Associate Athletic Director, and all the other sports information communication work that he does. It was a great group for us to welcome us in there on behalf of FedEx Ground, of us presenting this award to Morgan State University. I really enjoyed meeting the Bears.
This is a great way to really just start off the on-campus awards at Morgan State. Now, I do have a question for you, Gary. I mean, we talked about this, the build-up, the pre-planning that goes into where's Gary from week to week. But then suddenly we're in season, and it's got to be a plan's got to be put into effect. I mean, tell us about the logistics. You mentioned flying from Dallas-Fort Worth to Baltimore, but just did it go smoothly for you?
Actually, it went pretty well, Craig. We had a team. We had a video assistant who traveled with me to go to it, and this is going to happen the entire season. And as we shot all the video and footage and have the interviews that we do with the folks on campus, then we have to turn around that content and we have to get it to, I'll tell little secrets here behind the scenes. We send it to the UK because we have offices, Stats Perform, in the UK. And one of our producers is Graham Bell, who's there and able to edit some of the content that you just saw here on this podcast. We'll do that continually throughout the season. So right after we visited campus, we went to a hotel and uploaded content to a server that then was able to be manipulated by Graham. And there's going to be much more content on the YouTube channel, and you'll be able to see that as well. We'll have all the interviews with the players, with the head coaches, with the athletic director, and also the school president on our YouTube channel as shorts. You're going to want to see these things because the content that we're pulling together is going to be about what we can learn and share about FCS football, the overall experience. And with our partners, FedEx Ground, it's really going to be a fun time for us to be on campus each week.
Yes. If you're a listener on a podcast platform, as we mentioned, our YouTube channel, just search for FCS Delivered and you'll find all our content from week to week here on our podcast. So congratulations to Morgan State University, our first winner for FedEx Ground FCS National Team of the Week. Just thrilling to see everything that's transpired here. We're going to go to another break, and we'll be back with more of FCS Delivered.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
Oh no.
replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
Do you like what you're hearing on FCS Delivered today? For more national FCS coverage, please go to theanalyst.com throughout the week. We're the home for the FCS Top 25 Media Poll and the weekly and season-ending FCS National Awards, presented by FedEx Ground. We also take you across FCS Nation with stories, predictions, and an inside look. The FCS coverage can be found at theanalyst.com. Welcome back to FCS Delivered, presented by FedEx Ground. Craig Haley along with Gary Reasons, and we're here to discuss Week 2 of the college football season. FCS versus FBS, again, a huge slate. There has to be a win out there this week, right, Gary?
There's probably going to be a win out there. That's the guess. There's a few games that are out there and some that we'll talk about here. But Craig, I'm going to say, there's going to be a win on the FCS side this week.
All right, I look forward to quizzing you on that one. But even within the FCS Top 25 poll, there's plenty of teams in action. Number 5, Holy Cross, is at Boston College. And we know a little bit of something about Holy Cross against the FBS, Gary.
Yeah, Holy Cross, they've done a pretty good job. They beat UConn in 2021 and Buffalo in 2022. So, you have those 2 victories there. So, hey, history can repeat itself. So, good luck there.
I give them a shot up at Chestnut Hill. Number 7, Idaho in our poll. They're at Nevada. Now, the Vandals, since they've returned to the FCS level in 2018, they're 0-8 against FBS opponents. But Nevada did lose to UIW last year, so I definitely give them a chance. There's a certain quarterback, Giovanni McCoy, that could get it done. We'll see with the Vandals. New Hampshire, they're at Central Michigan. New Hampshire's number 11 on our top 25 poll. What's a key here for New Hampshire pulling an upset?
Well, New Hampshire, CMU, they're minus 18 already in turnover margin in 2022. They've got to turn that around, and so hopefully that's going to be the case. We'll see. New Hampshire is if this is they're going on the road, they've got to play well together. That's always a key in any of these football games. And any time that you have adversity, you've got to overcome it. They can't have turnovers, can't have mistakes, and if they go there, they'll have an opportunity to win that ball game.
Dylan Lobby was our FCS National Special Teams Player of the Week, but Max Brosner, their quarterback, 5 touchdown passes, all different receivers. They have those tremendous defensive ends. So their talent is there to really give Central Michigan a run for their money. Also, some other teams in the top 25 that are playing FBS opponents. Number 19, Delaware. It's at Penn State. Florida A&M, we talked a lot about them. They're now 23 in our poll. At USF, that's a distinct possibility. We mentioned Southern Illinois moving into the poll. Now they're number 24. They're at Northern Illinois. And then Maine. I tell you, Gary, Maine played the closest FCS score last week, 14-12, against FIU. You're never going to believe what Maine's reward is for this. They're going to the Fargo Dome in Week 2, Gary, against North Dakota State.
That's not a good place to play because the Bison are just splendid in that stadium. So I'll just leave it at that, Craig, and enjoy the trip.
I definitely think Week 2 is tougher than Week 1 FBS opponent for Maine Black Bears. All right, so let's go to some of our picks. Week 2, I mean, we're picking. We'll pick 5 games here, and also a potential FBS upset. I think we might get it done this week. Let's start in the Southern Conference. It's the conference opener, number 8, Samford at Western Carolina. Western Carolina just lost to Arkansas to open the season, but they're a little bit of a dark horse in the race. Can we see an upset in this one?
I don't think so. I think that Samford is squarely going to be on top in this one. They've got an exceptional quarterback in Michael Hires, and I think he's going to get the job done again.
Yeah, Sanford's really impressive. I mean, their offense is one of the best out there in the FCS. Their defense had to reload a little. We'll find out a little more against Western Carolina, which has an explosive offense. But that's just a great way to start the Southern Conference slate. I agree with you, Gary. I think Sanford gets it done in this one. Uh, a game within the rankings. Number 12, Weber State, is at number 21, Northern Iowa. Northern Iowa needs to get it done after a loss last week at Iowa State. What do you think of this matchup?
Well, I think Weber State's going to continue to roll. They've done a great job. That's why they're up to number 12 in the rankings over the last couple of seasons. They've improved year after year, and I think that gives them a little bit of hope that they're going to be able to play well. So I've got Weber State in this one.
I like it, and I think I like it, Gary, because I'm going against you. That's always fun when we have different picks. I think you and I at home, they're 18-4 in home openers under Coach Mark Farley, who seems to get it done so many times. But you and I always seems to have their backs against the wall a little bit early in the season because they play such a tough non-conference schedule. They don't want to lose this one and be 0-2 when they already know their Missouri Valley Conference schedule is so tough. So I'm going to go you and I to get it done, just a ranked game within the top 25. Speaking of top 25, North Carolina Central, number 18, they're playing their arch rival, North Carolina A&T. It's a road game, but, they are rivals.
I am going to go with North Carolina Central in this one. I think that's going to be the team go on and get this ball game. So NC Central.
Okay. I'm going to agree with you. I mean, Davius Richard, he's always finding the end zone, whether he's running the ball or he's passing the ball. Last year he had 4 total touchdowns against the Aggies. The rivalry games are terrific. We have one early here, so I agree with you. I'll go with North Carolina Central. Elon at Gardner-Webb. Now, this is the first game of the season between two teams that made the playoffs last year. It beats South Dakota State and North Dakota and Montana State by an hour or so kickoff wise. Elon and Gardner-Webb, I think it's probably a matchup of the running games. Do you agree?
Yeah, it is. You're going to have a couple of running backs in there with Jalen Hampton for Elon, and then Jaden Brown and regale there for them to be able to go with Gardner-Webb to run the football. So I think you're going to see a lot of running here, but I'm just going to go alphabetical on this one, Craig. E comes before G, so I'm going to pick Elon.
Well, I'm going to go Gardner-Webb. They played App State last week, pretty tough for 2.5 to 3 quarters. Didn't get the FBS upset, but going back to last year, I just see something in Gardner-Webb. Their momentum, especially on offense, and Trey Lamb is a coach on the rise. For a bigger program than Gardner-Webb, even though they're a conference champion. That's a tough matchup. I agree. It's a toss-up. That's why we kind of pick these games that are close. But I'm going to go Gardner-Webb. And then, of course, we have our FedEx Ground FCS Game of the Week. Number 3, Montana State at number 1, South Dakota State. We've definitely seen this matchup in recent years. What do you think of it, Gary?
Wow, this is going to be a fun, physical, tough ball game. 2 very well-coached football teams, 2 teams that have a lot of players that we've talked a lot about on both sides of the ball. It's at South Dakota State. So, and, I think that South Dakota State is going to play very well in this one at home. It's going to be a tough ball game. They're not going to just show up and have to and get the victory. They're going to have to play exceptionally well to beat Montana State. But I think South Dakota State wins at home in a close ball game.
And the home team has won these 2 recent matchups I mentioned. They've met in the FCS semifinals both of the last 2 years. 2 years ago, Montana State won out in Bozeman. Here we are in Brookings with South Dakota State winning last year, handily, in fact, on a very cold day there. The offensive talent in this game is incredible. I think if there's a difference, maybe South Dakota State has a better receivers. You have the Yankee twins. Griffin Wild had a big first week and is probably ready for the next step, getting the ball from Mark Gronowski. The running game is tremendous for Montana State. Their line, their 2-quarterback system, Tommy Malott and Sean Chambers we've talked about. I'm going to go with what you're saying, South Dakota State, because that's what I had going all along. But, boy, when you get to game week and you realize, hey, we've got to go out and beat a team like this, it's not easy. But let me ask you this, Gary. 3 times now they're going to be playing in about a, let's say, 19-month span. How do you avoid overthinking opponent that you really now know so well?
Well, they do know them, but, it's a little bit different personnel. You're always going to have little tweaks there. And so you can take a few things from the previous meetings, but really it's about what does your team look like today and what does your opponent look like today? You've got to overcome that. So there's confidence level that comes into this. And obviously with South Dakota State and how well they have done at home over time, I think that just gives them the nod here against Montana State. This is going to be a tough, close ball game. It'll be the game of the week to watch in the FCS. And but I do think that South Dakota State comes out of this one.
Yeah, 7 p.m. Eastern. It's an ESPN Plus game Saturday night. So it is the one everybody's looking forward to this early in the season. Probably the best non-conference matchup of the year for sure in the FCS. So, yes. Now, we talked about trying to get an FCS over FBS upset, and you seem to indicate you have somebody in mind here. Well, who's getting it done, Gary?
Well, I don't know that I'm going out on a limb here, but I think that I'm going to take the Fordham Rams over the Buffalo Bulls. Okay, Rams and Bulls in this one, but you got a quarterback in C.J. Montes who's done a pretty good job. He's got 6 TDs in the first couple of games here for Fordham, so I think he's going to continue to play well. And, they're going to have to go on the road and win this ball game. But I think that Fordham's going to get it done, Craig.
Yeah, I mean, from the Patriot League, Holy Cross won at Buffalo last year, so I could see it. I mean, Fordham's, very quality program. We'll see if it gets it done. I'm kind of conflicted with 2 teams that I think can pull it off. New Hampshire, I think, can win at Central Michigan, but I think I'm going to go with the Idaho Vandals winning at Nevada. Idaho, pretty impressive last week to start the year, and they needed to win, and they beat up on an opponent, but they just look good with Giovanni McCoy, Hayden Hatton, catching the ball. Their run game is stronger. I think Idaho would be my pick for an FCS over FBS upset. Okay, so we're all looking forward to week 2, Gary. Do you know where Gary's going to be this week?
I'm going to be watching college football all weekend, and you and I, we're going to figure this all out here. We're going to make the decision to where we're going to go and pick that national player or team of the week for me to attend, and that'll be done Sunday, maybe even as late as Monday, because there's so much going out there and so much information that we have to go through. It's not an easy task just to pick this, and then we may have a lot of coordination with the university. So won't know, Craig, until Sunday or Monday, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be it's a unique thing to go out to a college campus early in the week. I normally go on college campuses on a college football weekend, not early in the week. And this is really new. This is the first time we've ever done this and had a chance to go out and visit with these teams, get up close and personal with them, and which we did with Morgan State this week. And it was a lot of fun. I look forward to where I'm going to go, Craig, and really, and I could go anywhere.
That is so true. Well, and we did say it would be a whirlwind, and it will be all season. So we're looking forward to that. Stats Perform and FedEx Ground is making this happen from week to week with the on-campus visits. We thank them for getting it done with Gary reasons. Well, this is the end of our podcast for this week. I mean, Seth Biley and Graham Bell, we can't thank them enough, our producers, for making this all happen. The video is terrific. I'm looking forward to it every week, seeing it, Gary. I'd ask you where you're going to be like I just did, but we know that you can't tell us until next week. So it's a little bit of a secret, and we're going to find out this weekend who gets it done. Gary, I hope you enjoy all the action this weekend.
It's going to be a great weekend, Greg.
Yes. And I hope everybody out there, FCS fans around the nation, enjoy all the FCS action. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of FCS Delivered, presented by FedEx Ground. We'll see you next week.